My name is Dimitriou. I'm 68 years old. This is a story about me. I was born in Rastuni in Greece. I was 7 when we came to Australia. It took 3 days for our family to fly here. It was 1957 and we came to Adelaide for economic reasons. In 1958, the Queen Mother passed by our school. I was the only one who didn't get a flag that day. I felt a little excluded. In 1964, we became Australian citizens. We celebrated with Greek records and dancing. The Beatles went by Adelaide Boys High School and our headmaster declared a half holiday. We all copied the Beatles in those days. We moved and I went to Enfield High School. I left after year 10. Australia is a land of opportunity. I was restless and impatient to see the rest of it. I was an auto electrician with the Electricity Trust, and then I was a porter in the railways. I moved to Melbourne and I was a linesman in the Victorian Railways. I joined the Army in Melbourne and I was stationed at Kapooka, New South Wales and at Bandiana, Victoria. Army life was limiting, but I learnt lifelong skills. The most important is how to obey orders and be able to give them. I embraced army life and had a good time, but I became ill and had to leave. After that, I was a hippie out bush and I was an artist. In 1983, I enrolled in a course in journalism but did not complete it. I met my wife in 1986. Her 2 young boys, Justin and Shay, were 8 and 2 years old. We went bush in Queensland, at 4 Mile near Helenvale, across the Wallaby Creek in a rough hut. Life was tough without electricity. Having to empty the long drop, plant trees, grow a garden, fetch wood and carry water. We slept on mattresses on the floor. My sons tarried too long on the forest path one day after school. Rain had fallen in the mountains and the boys were caught in the flash flood. I heard Justin's deep voice distantly call for help. I was alarmed. I went down the creek after them. I jumped off a rugged height onto some rocks and buckled my back. I urged myself on and kept going. The rushing sound of white water was deafening. The boys hung onto a wire we had strung across the creek, but the water pressure was too great. Justin's fingers of his right grip were soon forced off the wire. His left hand clung tightly onto Shay. The boys were being washed away. I let go the wire and went after them. I grabbed the little one and threw him onto my shoulder. All 3 of us were flushed downstream. The force raised me waist high above the water. I prayed out aloud and a supple willow branch loomed ahead. I grabbed the branch and hauled Shay onto the bank. Justin hung onto another branch in the middle of the creek. With a stretch, I pulled him out too. Then all 3 of us returned on the wire, Shay on my back and Justin following. After this, I needed the support of my wife and a walking stick. On another occasion one night, Justin was bitten by a baby death adder. He woke us and showed the bite. The snake had slipped in through a hole. We kept him awake. We walked and carried him slowly upwards half a kilometre to the road. I ran anxiously the 4 miles to Rossville and woke a neighbour, Mr. Vincent White. He went off to borrow a car from Mr. Justin Adams. Vince returned 15 minutes later with a flat back tyre and nearly out of fuel. We fixed the tyre. Vince, his wife Helen and I arrived at 4 Mile. Helen took Shay to her house. We picked up Alison and Justin and headed for the Lions Den Hotel at 20 kilometres per hour, but it was closed, and again the tension mounted. We went to Wilmer's homestead 5 kilometres further, where we got petrol. We made the long, slow, anxious haul to Cooktown Hospital. The doctors had no antivenin, but they stabilised Justin's condition. From Cooktown Airport, the Royal Flying Doctor Service flew Justin and Alison to Cairns-based hospital, where he was treated with antivenom. That was a great relief. It was good to stop and relax. We moved to a small village where I started a community newspaper. I had experience of community newspapers, and I started 2 of them, in Rossville and in Kuranda. I also worked at the local recycling station where I damaged my hand. The wear and tear of life was taking its toll. From 1993 to 1998, I was an independent candidate in local, state and federal elections. My policies included a bullet train between Adelaide and Darwin, a railway line between Karumba, Normanton and Cairns, the Bradfield water system, a bank taxation scheme and cannabis law reform. My brother died in 1995, and in 1999 we returned to Adelaide to support my parents. My father died in 2010. My sister brought Mum into a nursing home. Mum is now 91. In 2013 I enrolled at the University of South Australia McGill campus to make films. I am an avid reader. I like history, science and the unexplainable, and I have my own theories and hypotheses. I wanted to video a different view of history, now the technology is available. The Bachelor of Media Arts degree engenders freedom of creative expression and art forms. I have made short films and short animations, and I participated in other students' projects. I have enjoyed my courses immensely. Some were harder and needed more time and practice. It has all been quite challenging. Amongst my films are documentaries promoting the South Australian Historical Tool Association. Other documentaries relate to South Australia's ex-Premier Mr Dunstan. I have made movies for experimental studio, visual effects and narrative film. This is unusual at my age, but I take it at a pace an old man can handle. Yes, I'm getting old, but you're never too old to learn at whatever pace. I was told by someone older I should keep moving or I'd stop. I can't complain really, I won't complain. I value each day as a blessing. There's always something to learn, always something to do, and if there isn't, I'll find something to do. I have a comfortable home, a good wife, and a faithful dog who loves me. What more can an old man want?